And welcome.
Welcome to Democrat and Chronicle, our Facebook Live show here. I'm Jeff DeVeronica. Covered the Rochester Rhinos for most of their 22 seasons. Whether there'll be a 23rd season, we're going to find out in a few days, whether it'll be in 2018 or maybe later on after that. Joining me here in studio, and we will take your Facebook Live questions. Get onto the Democrat and Chronicle page, post the comments. I will try to get at them here and read some questions for Wendy and David Dworkin, the second-year owners of the Rochester Rhinos. 23 months ago, largely the public at large in Rochester had no idea who you were. And yet now here we are 23 months later at a critical juncture in the history of pro soccer in Rochester. We lost the Rochester Lancers a long time ago. We lost the Rochester Flash, the men's team. A lot of people don't even know who they were in '84. The Rhinos came back in '96, and here we are now. We lost the Western York Flash last year. We lost the Rochester Lancers indoor team 2 years ago.
And the Rattlers.
And the Rattlers last week, the lacrosse team. The Rhinos have on Thursday as the deadline, Thursday night at midnight.
Well, technically, it'd be after the mail ends because I have to send out the options. So
okay.
In theory, I don't have till midnight.
David, so where are we at? 1.3 million you said you needed to generate in a 2-week span. We're at the very home stretch here.
We are.
Where are we at in funding, and how close are you? Are you close? I know we were on the radio a few days ago and we said that we're not halfway there.
So I said when we last were on the radio that I believe the glass is always half full. My wife believes it's half empty. I think I can say with confidence that the glass is less than half full. So I am less optimistic than I was. I was kind of hoping that we'd get some more traction than we have of late. Right now, we're still zero for our jersey sponsor, although we do have some people that have indicated a possible willingness to be part of it. On the hotel tax, of course, we're still at zero. And on corporate sponsorship, we've gotten some feedback, not a ton, but the season tickets have been good. Certainly, we've had more season tickets in the last couple weeks, but we're not anywhere close to our 2,500 goal that we were shooting for.
You're not even to 1,000.
No, we're not even to 1,000.
Yeah, but okay, so
we're far behind, and I can say, sadly, that if today were November 30th, this team would not be fielding itself in 18.
When did you guys realize, Wendy, that this was a step you're going to have to take? That 2018 might not happen. At what point? Was it August? Was it September? Was it October? Was it 3 weeks ago?
I think that we knew we had to make some drastic changes and improvements from day one. And we did have a 3-year plan of turning around the franchise and returning it to profitability, because it had not been profitable, at least for the years that we looked at the books. We knew year one was going to be difficult because technically we did not take over ownership until March, and you had already missed some budget cycles of some of the larger companies at that point. So really from day one, we worked on the season tickets and sponsorship and raising the team's profile, because we knew all three of those things had to come together. Year one was disappointing. Year two, 27.
I will say this, I think you guys tried some things in year one. I liked the attempt. I don't think all of them worked.
No.
I think, one of my questions is, what mistakes have you made?
I thought that the idea of, not to interrupt, but I guess I can.
You just did.
And I did.
Okay.
I thought the idea of having different food for different event was a great idea. I thought when we played Bethlehem, Philly cheesesteaks was a good idea. It didn't resonate with people. They just wanted hot dogs and hamburgers and chicken fingers. And so in year two, we didn't do that. So we shifted that. We, in year two, went with a different group to run our suites, and that was a huge improvement. Yeah. We picked up Dinosaur Barbecue, which I thought was an enormous enhancement to what we do. So there were some hits and there were some misses, but like anything else, you've got to try and see what people like.
Okay.
We did see a big uptick in the sponsorship from year one to year two, so that's a positive. We had new corporations get involved, such as Moe's and Papa John's and John Betlam Heating and Cooling. We started off with one financial services institution as our sponsor year one. In year two, we saw wonderful companies like KeyBank and ESL and Bank of Castile come on board. So there were wins.
All of them.
Yeah.
Actually, all but probably M&T.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a bunch of them. There were a few that didn't, but for the most part, they've been very supportive of us.
So we had...
Let this message out. Progress was made.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that really came across
Absolutely.
2 weeks ago in the press.
Progress
office,
has absolutely
Yes.
been made.
I also want to say this publicly, because there's a lot of people that say, well, they're looking for a handout. And I want to tell you that these people, and I don't have the books in front of me, I'm sure the city of Rochester does, and USL does, say they invested $3 million of their money into this.
That's not the franchise. That's just OpEx.
Okay. And I know, and let's go back to 23 months ago when the Rhinos needed, after a championship, they needed to find an owner.
Right.
Because the city of Rochester terminated Rob Clark's lease to operate the franchise for various reasons, which some of them came to light recently. But let's just go back to, why did you guys do this? I think that's another message that's getting lost here. Why did you two step to the plate and say, hey, did you say, hey, I want to be on TV a lot, or I want to be on the radio?
No.
Why
No.
did you do this? And I remember what you said,
Yeah.
maybe they don't know it.
Right.
So I didn't want something else to leave Rochester. I mean, we've just gotten a jobs report that said approximately 3,000 jobs, depending on whose analysis of the numbers you're taking, were lost in the Rochester region over the past year. And the numbers weren't so rosy when they came out when we were looking to purchase the team. And I think David and I said, this is something that we can do to prevent take the sports part out of it, another company leaving Rochester. This is something we can help prevent. We had just finished coming off of the Sacramento Kings involvement, where there too, the franchise had issues.
Nearly left for Seattle.
Nearly left for Seattle, and the ownership was not being embraced by the community. So coming into a situation where there may be some hostility to past ownership, again, not something new. I couldn't at the time, but David flew out to California. He worked with the mayor of Sacramento.
Former NBA player named
Yep.
Kevin Johnson, by the way, point guard, remember him?
Yeah.
I do.
David worked with Kevin Johnson as part of the team of what can we do to keep it here. He actually took the time and called season ticket holders out in Sacramento and learned their concerns. So I think people don't realize that we had a little bit more experience in sports than they realize, and we really thought we could make a difference and keep something from leaving Rochester. And it's odd because my cousin had walked the same road with the Rochester Royals some 50, 60 years ago.
Sure. I want to talk. There are some people coming in with questions. Let's go. Someone's asking about the neighborhood.
Yep.
You guys had never been to the soccer stadium before owning it.
That's not true.
No,
I thought you'd never went to a Rhinos match.
Correct.
Correct.
knew the neighborhood.
But you'd gone to Frontier Field.
Correct.
So, the neighborhood, is it an issue? And I want to mention not in particular, but people that went 8 years the first 8 years of the stadium, the neighborhood wasn't what it should be.
Right.
There have been changes in the last few years. Can you talk about how it's different now than from what you had heard it had been the first? Because you've talked to a lot of fans.
Sure. Well, it's not just fans. I've spoken to a lot of the people that have helped improve the neighborhood beyond just the stadium. So you look, there's the Stadium Estates development that Roger Brandt and his son is doing, which has changed a lot of the housing stock. There's Habitat.
Hang on. Some of the boarded up houses are gone. She's gonna say, you're going to give the nice answer. So some of those houses that you fans that don't go there anymore, they're gone.
Right.
So if you came back the last couple of years, you would have seen that. Sorry, go ahead.
So they did that. Habitat for Humanity's done a
No,
wonderful
it's good.
job. And we actually donated our parking lots and such for their last Frame Up event, building more Habitat for Humanity homes.
Wait, but I read on Twitter that someone said you guys don't give two craps about
Yes.
the people
I'm
in the neighborhood.
familiar with that
Yes.
gentleman. He
Yes, that's correct.
Haven't you welcomed groups into your park?
Yes, we
into-
have.
We have done an
For the
enormous amount of
Josana.
not-for-profit stuff brought not-for-profits in. An article 5 years ago notwithstanding, we have Habitat for Humanity, we've Autism Up, Crohn's and Colitis, Charles Settlement House,
Food Link.
a Badge of Honor, the Fallen Hero.
Fallen Heroes.
There's so many times that we've donated the stadium.
specifically
Right.
for residents of
Right.
that neighborhood, David and I personally have been to school number 17 several times, met with the head of the rec center, met with the head of Charles Cement House about how we can be good neighbors.
A lot of our employees live in that exact neighborhood.
That is true.
So, okay,
Correct.
so let's
So
just
dispel
dispel
that.
that theory
Yes.
that they don't care about the neighborhood.
Correct.
I will say that, in my opinion, the city of Rochester is partly to blame because the first 7 or 8 years of the stadium existence, it did nothing with the neighborhood. And I think a lot of suburbanites drove down there and didn't like what they saw for whatever reason, and whatever any stereotypes they have, that's on them. But I've never had a problem in that neighborhood. It's not to say there's never been an issue in that neighborhood. But if you park 2 blocks from a stadium in someone's on the street and not in the stadium lots, that's on you.
Well,
you don't
want to spend anywhere. Listen, we have our offices on Park Avenue.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, someone stole our American flag.
Yeah.
From the front of our office. They stole the American flag.
A lot easier to take that than a goalpost.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's good, thanks. But I will say that they're, apparently they felt guilty because they did bring it back over the weekend. But yeah, I mean, it could happen anywhere. But I mean, listen, Wendy was able to get 20 new signs, wayfinding signs. People could figure out where the stadiums are.
It goes back again to what I said on the radio. I'm going to say it here. First 8 years of the stadium, 9 years. Never a sign on 490 West to say there's a soccer stadium in our town.
It just said Frontier Field.
That was it.
No, and Wendy was able to get DOT and the city to get the signs changed. Now they say stadiums, plural, so that people know how to get there.
And
or they
there's
say
signs
soccer
in
stadium.
front of all
See,
the lots.
that's where this is, we're discussing this,
Sure.
and this is where I partly find fault with Rob Clark and the people he empowered to run his team for 7 years that didn't push the issue like you did immediately to get signs directing people to your stadium so they knew. Because one of the concerns is if we take a wrong turn, we're in the bad part of the neighborhood.
Right. I know how to get to Frontier Field, but I don't know how to get to the stadium.
Sometimes you just need a fresh set of eyes looking at things too.
Right, and you guys gave them that.
Correct.
You really do. I mean, because what I did what any person that would be going to the stadium for the first time, and I knew how to already get there. You know, I developed things in the city and all over Rochester, so I get in my car and I just go places and I don't think about it. So I went from my house in various points around town to go to the soccer stadium and said, if I didn't know where I was going, how would I get there? And I literally had this huge list, and I wrote everything down, and I went to the city, and they helped me with the DOT.
Huge difference for people.
Okay.
So good.
This guy says here on Facebook, how is the city to blame for the neighborhood? It's not the city's fault the neighborhood is bad. Yeah, it is, because when the city said they're going to put a stadium there, and they went with David Gantz's idea to put the stadium there, they said it was going to be redeveloped the area, and they didn't do a thing about it for 7, 8 years. And I'm telling you this because I covered it, I know it. You guys weren't around then to be following it as closely as I was. So, yeah, it's the city. Part of this is on the city of Rochester. And you know what? Come Friday, unless something happens really cool in the next few days, it's going to be on the city of Rochester again, not these two people. Which leads me to my next question. Let's just bounce a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
What's the future hold? Can you take a year off? Will you take a year off? Would you take a year off?
Those sound like the same question.
I got it all straight.
So yeah, so the answer is we can. If we don't,
This league has said we'll give you a...
So we had a conference call last week with our external counsel. Since my wife's an attorney, I'm not, for everyone's viewing pleasure.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
And the league and their general counsel, and we talked about what happens if we don't hit our goals by the end of the month.
Right.
And the league has made it very clear that we can take a year off, we will be in good standing, and we will vote like anyone else will. There's a Board of Governors meeting the first week of December, and we will have a seat at the table like every other team will. So we will be in good standing in our league taking a year off.
You know, the Montreal Impact did that in 1999, and
Yes.
it worked.
Yes.
So
I mean,
honestly, in my opinion,
Right.
and this is not what some Rhinos fans want to hear, maybe not what you want to hear. And I think I told you this a few weeks ago. I think that's the best play, is to take a year off and reassess. And I know some people out there, including Soccer Sam, that says that's not a good thing to do. He's not the only one that says that.
Right. Sure.
But I think if you guys can do it, I think that might be the best way.
Well,
now, here,
no, finish. Go ahead.
but here's my other question. The other people that say, well, why did you wait so long to bring this to the public's attention? And we sat here in April, and the headline said, uncertain future in
Correct.
second season for new Rhinos owners.
We made it very clear, and
And you were very clear.
Well, you were very clear. Well, yeah, listen, I met someone over the weekend who's a soccer person that goes to Rhinos games, and I was wearing a Rhinos top, and she said, "Oh, I love the Rhinos. I go to 4 or 5 games a year." I said, "Great." She said, "I'm looking forward to next season." I said, "You understand? Have you been reading what's going on?" "No, what's going on?" I said, "How do you not know?" And she said, "I don't know. I haven't seen it. Has it been in the news?" So there are still people that don't know, but we've made it very clear after the first year what was important, and then you made it very clear in your article earlier this year that we needed certain things, and it is uncertain. And we've made it clear to the community, the city, our fans. I mean, we've talked to
But why
fans.
not come out in August and say?
Well,
To
Go
be
ahead.
fair, we have been saying this, maybe not to press or anything like that since your article in April, but since we purchased the team, we've been very clear in all of our sponsor meetings and et cetera.
We need help, we need partners.
And all the appropriate governmental people, and I am, don't just single out the city. We've been spoken to the city, we've spoken to the county, and we've spoken to the state. So.
And businesses locally
Yes.
that said, you might want to just go away. Really?
we've gotten that.
They actually said that to you?
We've gotten that from a number of influential Rochesterians that have said you should just pack it up and go. If you're not going to get the support, why are you doing this?
Which to me is actually leads a bigger question. Take the Rhinos out of it. What is the community going to support? What does this mean for all businesses when a business can say, we're not getting the support from all levels, and the answer is it's just easier to pack up and go. I think there's some much bigger issues that raises than just sports teams leaving.
And some people don't understand sports and what sports does for a community. It complements other parts of your quality of life. But sure, from hearing that from more than one person, it is very discouraging. And you scratch your head and say, we did all this for the right reason. And these are people that, in some cases, could buy a dozen of these teams with their checkbook. And it's frustrating to hear it, but all we can do is do the best we can do and hope that there's others that see things differently than that.
David and Wendy Dworkin, owners of the Rochester Rhinos, and we're talking about what the future may hold. Operator of the stadium. Can you remain operator of the stadium if you don't have a soccer team to play in it?
Yes.
Yes.
How?
Because we have a lease with the city of Rochester.
A 10-year lease, right?
We have a 10-year lease with the city of Rochester that allows us to operate the stadium pursuant to the terms and conditions, which we would intend to follow. And clearly,
you have an attorney sitting next to you.
I do.
He's very good at this.
Yes,
so.
but I would take it a step further to say, if we don't have the stadium, then how could we possibly come back? I mean, think about forgetting about what we believe we can do. To the extent that we take a year off for a moment, if we lose the stadium, now we have a different issue with our league, because you need to have a place to play. I mean, that's part of what caused Mr. Clark some issues, is he lost his lease. So to the extent that we have a stadium, we have a place to field a team in 2019 and beyond. Okay. So from our and I guess what gets mixed up with the whole hotel tax and everything else here is that the hotel tax isn't just for the Rhinos. The hotel tax is for the facility. So when the Drum and Bugle Corps, DCA, comes to the stadium and 5,000 hotel rooms are being utilized, has been told to us by the Visit Rochester and these other tourism groups, those 5,000 rooms are because of an event in the stadium. It's the stadium that should receive the hotel tax.
That's the Rhinos. Yeah.
Right.
That's where it gets
and it's
a little
not a
muddled.
tax. It's, and I tried to do some quick math, and if it really is $8.7 million for 2018, and it is 6%, it's about $146 million of total hotel revenue. If it's a 6% tax, you're talking about 60 to 80 cents a room. I mean, that's...
So that means visitors, or even if you want to go spend the night at the lodge at Woodcliff.
Right. So if you added a half a point, so if for some reason the hotel tax were increased from 6 to 6.5%, and that extra half a basis point went to our stadium in totality, that extra half a point is $700 and something thousand, which is fantastic. And that's an extra 60 to 80 cents. Again, quick math in my head.
A night. So when you go to stay at a hotel and you see you check your bill
New York,
in the morning,
Vegas, wherever,
and you're like, hotel tax, what's that? They just tacked on $20 a night. That's how they're paying for the stadium in Vegas for the new football team.
Right. Cincinnati too.
Right, Cincinnati. But again, if my math is correct, and it's possible it isn't, if I have it correct.
Here's what I've learned, is that the city of Rochester was told by the county in 2006, which is a long time ago, this stadium had just opened up, actually in June of 2006, so that we're freezing the hotel tax money going to the city of Rochester at $1.7 million. And that's basically split between Blue Cross Arena at the Community War Memorial and the Rochester Riverside Convention Center.
Correct.
Now we have another city venue that, and people say, well, geez, they're just using, they want this money to cover their own expenses. Well, that's part of it, but you can make a bigger and better staff, right?
Well, and
you can I always hear a lot of time, we never advertise. Well,
I do advertise.
Right.
We advertise even in the DNC print and
digital. Got you. But no, but I think, but the fact of the matter is, the hotel tax is specifically designed to provide funding for
industry that brings in
correct
and facilities.
And we have 300 hotel rooms, I said before, for the Rhinos, plus the referees, plus
visiting teams that play
all the other events that come into the stadium. So from where we are, whether and frankly, if the Rhinos don't play next year, that should not preclude the stadium from still getting a portion of the hotel tax. Just because we're not playing, in my mind, the issue's not over. Because irrespective of what happens, the facility should receive it because there are events there next year, and there will be events there in the future.
What have you heard? Why doesn't it?
The answer that we've heard...
same old, same old. That was another headline we used.
Yes. The answer that we got was it's $1.7 million. It goes to the convention center and the Blue Cross Arena, and any other dollars that you get, this is the city's position, if you get any additional dollars, you can have all those dollars allocated to the Pele Sports Stadium. So we went to the county and basically said...
And this was months, they went to the county months ago.
This is when it was warm.
It wasn't like this was again...
No. And we went to the county and said the city has portrayed to us that the $1.7 million is currently earmarked for these two facilities, but to the extent that we're able to get any additional dollars above that, the city's position is 100% of those dollars could come to the stadium that we operate. And we met with Cheryl, the county executive, and some of her senior staff for an hour and a half, 30 minutes more than the allocation of time. And the county executive made it very clear that there's 1.7 allocated. That's what we're allocating. That's a very large portion of the dollars, and we're in no position to give any more money. So the city says get more and you can have it. The county says, you know, we give more as a county to a city than most any other county gives a city in the community, and that's it. And the state does. So,
which is correct,
right.
But we didn't know at
we
the
don't
time.
know. I don't know if that is or isn't correct, but that's what they told us, so I'll assume it to be accurate. But the short answer is that you have this, which is, and you know, there's no fast forward for us. I mean, we're still getting zero.
I can put the ask out there, but it's for other people.
Right.
Yes, it's who decides. Somebody said who decides the hotel tax allocation.
That's
Monroe County does.
Well, so that's.
Well, they decided on the 1.7 million.
Right, the 1.7. But what I have not been able to get confirmed, and maybe you have since we talked, is does the city decide that 905 goes to Blue Cross and 795 goes to Convention Center? Or does the county specifically tell the city exactly where they're going to put those dollars?
And we tried to talk to Mayor Lovely Warren about this last week, and she referred all questions to her spokespeople.
Right, so I don't know the answer, and because I'd love to be able to have a conversation, because if it's the county, then the question to the county is, would you please reallocate some of those dollars? And if it's the city, then why can we not get any reallocation of those dollars?
Okay, you may have heard something about this. I'm going to try to paraphrase this long and drawn-out question about promotion for the supporters season, a supporters section this season. We didn't find out about it until the season started. And then there was an issue. We were told that we weren't even allowed to promote the supporters package for season tickets.
I can address that.
Thank you, please.
So we didn't.
Adam needs an editor like me.
In the past, there had not been a specific supporters section promotion, so to speak. And
a ticket break for the people who want to be in the supporters section.
Correct. So if you're not a soccer person, you don't know what that is. It's usually a section where ardent fans are. They bring their drums, their flags, and they're ardent soccer fans. So the season had started, and we decided, well, let's try something out for some of our best supporters. A steeply discounted season ticket for $99 for the 17 games. And do they care? Will it get some traction? Give some extra benefits that maybe the general public wouldn't be interested in, but a serious fan would be interested in. It did pretty well, not as well as we would have liked. And we asked these supporters not to go crazy and tell the general public about it, because we can't offer $99 season tickets for an entire stadium.
And the thought is you're going to sit in the supporter section. Well, we can't. You can't. There's no different ticket. It's the supporters ticket. So if they're going to sit with the supporters group, we didn't know, and what we didn't want to happen was we have this massive supporters.
Just going for the supporters ticket at the greater rate, and then sit wherever they want.
Correct.
Exactly.
So the goal was to help the supporters garner more supporters.
Grow their audience, their membership.
Go to any
which they had trouble doing for a long time.
And if you go to any other USL or even MLS, you'll see the supporters are they're ridiculous. I mean, they're huge.
They tend to be young.
Well, they're generally younger. Some are.
No, they're millennials.
Right.
These are the kids that are rowdy. They want to feel included in something.
Frankly, I will
Which is
say,
why you can't always have them sitting
right.
anywhere.
But I will say the supporters bring a certain type of
atmosphere
that is so
energy.
unique to soccer over any other sport.
The chanting,
they're beating their drums,
yes.
they're singing. We've
They're
got
chanting.
and we wanted, because that's what really, because look, we all know that there's not a ton of goal scoring in a Rhinos match. So to have someone or a group of people,
soccer match, really.
Soccer match, yes, correct.
Don't criticize just the Rhinos.
Right. Correct. But to the extent that we're able to, so that was the very long answer to the long question was, it came out later after we kind of announced our season tickets. It was a way for us to try to give the supporters through their organic social media the way to hey, look, you haven't been a fan or you haven't come to me. Here's an option for you to come in and for $99, and that's where it came from.
Okay. Someone did ask here, and I can answer this one real quick. Does the Frontier Field get any piece of the tax money? Absolutely. They got $500,000 last year, year before, and next year it's going up to $700K for Frontier Field, which is a county-owned and run facility.
Precisely.
So I understand that.
I do too.
So I get that.
I do. And the county executive is very clear about that. That she said that the Frontier Field is a county facility, and our allocations of the hotel tax go to Frontier Field because it's a county facility, just like the stadium is a city-owned facility.
Okay, so
you're multitasking.
Well, I'm looking at my questions now because we're getting toward the end. We got about 3 minutes left.
Oh boy!
And this is ironic because it went by like that, or 30 minutes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Tradition. I tend to think that you were sold on the tradition of this club being the reason it was going to bounce back, and the people who sold you that were the USL. Do you feel at all buffaloed, no pun intended, by what they did?
No, I mean, I think that I didn't need to be sold on the tradition. I mean, everyone knows the tradition of the Rhinos, just like the Rochester Royals were more famous outside of Rochester. This team is more famous outside of Rochester. We looked at, as Wendy said, a 3-year plan that we worked on with the USL that in almost any other planet would make perfect sense. Strong corporate support from your season ticket holders, support from local governments, and when you look at those puzzle pieces, it made perfect sense that it could happen. And you hear the stories, well, it was the owner's issues. The prior, there was prior administration. I mean, there's a million reasons.
There was,
so
there was deficiencies in the way it was run,
and we felt that as local owners, with our connection to the local community, that we could make a difference and that people would come along. We ran into somebody yesterday, my wife and I were commenting about it. We ran into somebody yesterday that said, hey, look, I'm really hoping you guys come through. Soccer's really important. We love to go to the matches. Good luck. And he walked away, and I said to Wendy, wouldn't it have been great if he would have said to us everything that he just said, and oh, by the way, I bought 4 season tickets. So we hear a lot of, we're pulling for you, we're rooting for you.
A lot of that.
But there's a period at the end of that sentence. There should be a comma and says, and oh, by the way, to show you our support, we're doing this. And the good news is a lot of people have done that, but there just isn't enough. And,
I was surprised how long people hold grudges against prior.
That's the other piece. And the league would never have known those grudges that exist at this level.
There's a lot of personal, I think, baggage that came
we
along.
talked about, and I tweeted that out. I got a lot of traction now. You speaking with a youth coach or director of a youth club that said, into your face, I hope you fail. And I thought, I put that out there because I really thought that was a microcosm of what's been happening for a long time.
And maybe if you're gone for a year, maybe people realize that, because people aren't able to separate old ownership and the Dworkin ownership. And maybe that year off allows them to take a moment and say, maybe I should let those grudges go away. I don't know.
Some people are asking about concerts, and I will explain this to them. Again, if you got a portion of a big revenue from the hotel tax, and you guys had more money that you could put toward this without putting yourself at risk. Say in Aerosmith, we want to get Aerosmith to play the stadium. Aerosmith wants a check for $750,000 up front. Here's your $750 million or $1,000 Aerosmith. And then you have to go sell tickets to make the money, try to cover your butt on that. So again, without having enough of an operating budget because maybe you needed more public dollars, and again, I know the city puts money toward it, I get it, but it just doesn't seem fair that this hotel motel tax, why not? $3.3 million goes to something called Visit Rochester. Raise your hand if you know what that is. And I know it's supposed to attract visitors to Rochester, But there's lots of stuff that I don't know that happens in the area too. I'd like to know who decides that Visit Rochester gets $3.3 million. I mean, I would think Cheryl Denoff on her staff decide that.
You're asking the wrong person that question.
I want to find that out.
I don't know that.
All right, we're out of time.
Say it isn't so.
I know. Well, we could do this for a whole hour. I don't think there were gonna be a lot of we have other things to do today, right? But any final comments as we move forward here?
You know, as I said, the glass
Scott Mauer, 3-year plan. It's been 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, but I blew through the 3 years in year one.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true. He did say that.
I mean, I had a 3-year plan, and we've already burned through the 3-year plan in year one. We burned through the 3-year exactly again in year two. I mean, if you consider where we are, it's just, and look, if we had...
Well, you did see progress.
We did.
That's the thing.
We saw progress, but the problem is that if we had a hotel tax last year for pick a number, and we had it again this year, those numbers would have made a huge difference. And the challenge is that, you know, we're the only team without a jersey sponsor. I mean, how can that be in a community with companies like this that don't want to, I mean, it's hard to imagine. So my parting thought with the few moments I have is that we're disappointed that we're where we are. We didn't expect to be here 2 years ago or even last year. We're thankful for the people that have supported us and have continued to support us. And as I said when I started, if it ended right now, we wouldn't be playing next year. We're on the clock, as I like to say. We got 3 days, and if it comes through with someone listening that wants to support us, it's not charity. There's a quid pro quo, and hopefully it comes through. If not, then no one's going to say the Dworkins didn't try, and no one's going to say that our fans didn't try, and the companies that supported us. People may say, how about the ones that didn't support us? Well, those are the ones that are going to have to look in the mirror and say, where did those 400 jobs go?
Wendy?
I think he pretty much summed it up.
Well, I would tell you this, that my daughter went to a Western New York Flash match. She's 4. Flash match a couple years ago, and she had a fantastic time. It's the only Western New York Flash match she'll ever go to in her life because the Western New York Flash are gone. Again, this predates you. From the youth side all the way up, there have been issues in our soccer community and people working together. And the thing I've said on the radio for many years is, in the late 1990s, people in this community wanted to be part of the action and work together to make the Rhinos and pro soccer fly high again, and gave us a national reputation for being the best minor league soccer city in America. And I know a lot of you folks got disappointed that we didn't go to MLS, as was I. And you can stew over that, and you can give up if you want, or you can go back to trying to make us, which is something I wrote a couple years ago, the best darn minor league soccer city in America, because we're not going to MLS. But if you don't want your kids to go to a soccer match ever again in your town, a pro soccer match, don't pick up the phone. And don't call 454-KICK, or don't go to rhinosoccer.com. Just stay in your houses, watch your EPL on your Saturday morning shows. Yeah, I know it's not as good as that, but if there's ever going to be a chance where the Rhinos are really good again, it can't just come from $3 million from private investors and people who stepped up to the plate. It's got to be everybody. And I'm putting my hand up. The media in this town, we haven't done as much. There are reasons for that. They know it. I've explained it elsewhere. I'm not going to explain it again here. But if we see 5,000 or 6,000 people in the stands, guess what?
You're following it.
I'll be there. That's part of the equation. So you have the power, Rochester, to help them. And you want more media coverage? Show up at matches. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll have you again here next week in a triumphant video, or we'll have you back with a follow-up. But I appreciate it. I hope.
Thank you.
I was speaking from the heart as somebody that has a kid that will not have pro soccer. So.
Well, my son works there.
Labor laws, though, David.
It's okay.
Yeah, he's our kid.
For David and Wendy Dworkin, I'm Jeff DeVeronica. Thanks for watching us here
Thank
at DNC Digital. And stay tuned to DemocratandChronicle.com for more news about all this in the coming days.